I would probably be more concerned than what I am now, where we have faster cars and we're getting horrendous finishes out of them. Because you know that execution is something you can find more easily than perhaps just overall potential and raw speed. What do you call it? Submerged?
Mm-hmm.
And we went down. I can't remember how far it was. And when you go down, like you hear the creaking and the cracking, you're like, all right, should I be nervous? But there's no windows. So there was a part of me that was like, did we even leave the base? We make this awkward left turn when you get to the top of the ramp, and you get there and you stop. And you're like, okay, now what? And there's like one guy with a camera. You know what I mean?
Welcome into Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. I'm Chris Childers, and back with me today, my co-host, Mr. Mike Massaro from RFK. And today we have a really special guest with us on the show. He is the K in RFK. Mr. Brad Keselowski is with us, co-owner of the team, or co-owner of the entire organization, and driver of the number 6 car for that team. Mr. Keselowski, a pleasure to have you on the program today, man. How are you?
Great. Glad to be on. Is this my first time on this year?
I think it is.
It's the first time this year, and it's the first time with me. For whatever reason, last year I was gone when you were able to do the show. So it's a thrill for me to finally get to talk to you.
That's right.
Man.
You were big time in me last year. Right? Like, I'm available. Let's film this show. You'd be like, yeah, I got something else to do.
I think I was in Europe with my family or something like that.
Exactly.
So,
you were big timing.
There was a little big
I'm
timing going on. I think we were in Italy or something like that. But we were still keeping up with everything back in the States from a race perspective. But it's really cool to be with you today. So much going on. We're coming off of Darlington. Bristol is a favorite track of a lot of people, and it's coming up this week, much to the excitement of many people. But give us an idea of where you're at right now mentally coming out of Darlington, the race last week. Call it luck, call it whatever you want. Didn't go the way of the number 6 team. So where are you with this team mentally going into the beautiful environment that is the last great Coliseum known as Bristol?
Well, we haven't got a lot of results lately, and that's been terribly frustrating. But there's a lot of bright spots. We just haven't found our potential. Our potential, I feel like, with the 6 team is higher than it's been since I've been here at RFK. The cars are faster. I feel like we've found different chemistry, but we haven't been able to put all the pieces together. And some of it has been misfortune, and then other pieces have been totally in our control. And so we got to clean all that up and get results. What I like about our team, if I put my rose-colored glasses on, is I think we have the opportunity to win more than we were able to over the last 3 years. I think we have more speed, and I think executing that hasn't come for us so far. But I think when it does click, we'll be better off than we've been before.
Stage 1 this past week, not just you, but all 3 RFK cars. I mean, they were lightning fast. The green flag pit stops, though, that turned into being trapped a lap down for a few of your cars, it seemed to change everything in stage 2.
Yeah.
Mentally, how do you compartmentalize that during the race?
Well, first off, I'm kind of like embarrassed that it was my car that caused the caution. We had all 3 RFK cars. I think we were 3rd, 4th, and 5th, if I remember right. And I felt like I was a little faster than my teammates Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher, and we were feeling pretty good that we would pass them in the next 10, 20 laps and get up to 3rd. I felt like we were probably 2nd or 3rd place car this past weekend in Darlington. And so when we pitted a lap after the other RFK cars and came out, it was our wheel and the wheel nut and came off and caused the caution and trapped all of them down. You're like, man, not only did did our day just turn sideways, but it killed the other 2 RFK cars' chance to win the race. So it's kind of like 3 kicks in the you-know-what. But, I guess there's nothing you can do about it. So if there's a way to compartmentalize it, you're like, hey, I can't spend the rest of this race looking backwards. I have to immediately, get out the front windshield, look at what are the opportunities. Can I get back to the lead lap? We effectively lost 3 laps fixing the car. There's a chance this race could come to us. If it gets a handful of yellows, we need to be positioned to take advantage of that. So then you're just trying to get yourself in position to be able to get the lucky dog or get a wave around. That didn't happen for us. But, if you do catch those breaks, you just want to be ready for them.
But you had a lot of speed, all 3 cars.
Yeah, we did. We started 20th. We haven't qualified as well as we went with the 6 car. But we drove, like you said, up to the top 6 in stage 1. Felt like we were going to drive up in the top 3 in stage 2. And as you see with the way the race played out at the end, like Denny Hamlin came to pit road running 3rd, came out with the lead. You put yourself in those positions and good things can happen.
Brett Keselowski with us today on Backstretch Banter with RFK. I want to get into your experience because, you haven't had the results that you want to have, but you've been driving for a long time. You've had incredible ups. Certainly there's going to be downs that happen along the way, especially if you've been in this business long enough. I'm curious, maybe a young driver could look at what's happened this season. They'd get discouraged. They'd start beating themselves up. You've been through it so long. Do you believe that because of what's happened with the speed, because, 60s had good results, Chris just finished in the top 10, is it just a matter of time? I mean, is it just, keeping your head up and eventually it's going to happen?
Yeah, I think with maturity and certainly age is a part of that, like you learn what things to worry about and what things not to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me, I'm less worried then if we had a season where we had less speed, where we were running 10th or 15th in the races, and we were getting 5th to 10th place finishes, but we weren't really fast enough to earn those, I would probably be more concerned than what I am now, where we have faster cars and we're getting horrendous finishes out of them. Because that execution is something you can find more easily than perhaps just overall potential and raw speed. And I feel pretty confident in that. So I guess maybe I'm less worried than probably some people think I should be, because I feel like this team can click at any minute.
Mm-hmm.
And when it does, it can rattle off wins, top 5s, top 10s, and the consistency that we need to be a legitimate contender.
And that's a very mature approach. It's just something Chris brought up, talking about how you might be different right now than you were years ago. How would you compare your mindset as a mature veteran driver here in 2025 to, say, where you were in maybe 2010?
Yeah, you have more confidence in what it takes. That comes with time. I know what things to sweat and what not to sweat. Like I'm sweating not being fast in qualifying. Like I need to find qualifying pace. That probably bothers me more than anything, because generally your execution improves, particularly in Cup, when your qualifying improves. It's easier to execute when you start closer to the front. And there's a number of reasons for that. Generally, better pit stall, easier to get stage 1 points, and then you kind of set the tone for the weekend with expectations from everybody. That's probably what I sweat the most. And, if I looked back 15 years ago when I first started in Cup, you sweat different things, like, was I fast in practice? Mm-hmm. Do my team guys believe in me? Things like that. And I still care about those things, but they're not what I focus on a weekend.
You understand, worry about the things you can control and things that you can't control.
Worry about the things that matter.
Right.
There's, whether it's in racing or life in general, there's a lot of things you can worry about.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of things that really matter, and finding those and being able to discern between the two is something I think is really important.
Do you think, I'm curious, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, going back to when you were driving for a different team, and what I loved about you is anytime you were talking to the media, or even if you were, doing Race Hub or something with Shannon Spake, was how thoughtful you were about the science of the racing. And you would break things down, and I'd always sit there and listen to you, and I'm like, this guy's really sharp. And you were talking to us about something off the air about, intelligence, and when it comes to racing, you certainly have an incredibly high IQ. Do you think that you're similar to other drivers, or are you unique in the way that you approach racing and look at racing on a daily basis, with the way that you kind of think things through?
Well, I don't know if I really think about other drivers that much, to be honest.
Okay.
I
just
think
didn't
about
know if, like, talking with them and if they think about it or see it like you do.
When I think about other drivers, is usually in the context of moves they've made, good or bad. Like, hey, I saw a move, so and so. So, yeah, like I was watching film for Darlington, and 2 or 3 years ago, another driver, and I won't use names, but I saw a move they made, and it wasn't a race-winning move. In fact, it was, a move further back in the pack that I really liked. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna use that. And it was a certain scenario, right, where cars were lined up in a certain way and a certain duration into the tire run and things of that nature. And you're like, oh, I like that one. So I look at things like that, and when you see a move like that from someone, you're like, I'm gonna thumb through a couple other races with this driver and see if I can find anything similar that I like or don't like. And more often than not, you don't find anything, but it's kind of like a rabbit hole that you fall in.
Yeah.
And so I look at things like that, and then vice versa. You'll see a move and you're like, yeah, that was a terrible move. All right. So I should be aware that when I'm around him, he might make that move, and I either need to take advantage of it or not get caught up in it. So when I think about other drivers, generally my context is limited to purely that discussion. Like I don't spend a lot of time thinking about like, XYZ driver carries himself in this way or drives this car or owns this house. Like I don't really,
Sure.
I guess I don't think about those things. It's not important to me. And in that sense, I don't know that I have a clear enough understanding of my competitors outside of their actual racing moves and abilities to be able to differentiate between, their ability to do other things. And so I don't know if I have a fair opinion.
I'm fascinated with
though.
Chris. I'm fascinated with what Brad just said about watching tape. Athletes in all sports watch tape to try to pick things up. Whether it's a quarterback on a football team trying to identify defensive setups so they can set up a play and things like that. I wonder, you're watching moves and you mimic some moves that you see have been successful. Do you also identify perhaps weaknesses in other drivers that you can exploit during a race coming up?
Well, 100%. What makes motorsports, I think, more difficult than other sports is if you think of like football. Football's in plays, right? Mm-hmm. Each play is maybe 3 to 7 seconds, right? They're pretty short plays. And then you got like 30 seconds in between or whatever till they snap the ball game. Sometimes they'll get a timeout. When you're in the car, particularly when you're in a green flag scenario, you don't get those resets, right? You don't get that moment to be like, all right, I got to catch my breath here. All right, I saw the move he made right here. Oh, yeah, that's right. When I was studying film, that means his next move's going to be this, and I can adapt to it. Like, no, you're like, I got to go to the next corner, right?
Right.
You don't have those moments to like reflect and pause. So that puts more significance mentally into having those moves like top of mind. Absolutely like top of mind, and makes the game film analysis like in some ways, to me at least, more important in motorsports than other sports, because like I'm not probably going to get a radio communication in my ear from a crew chief saying, all right, it's time to run this move, this play, whatever. Now's the shot. All right, break the huddle. Like that moment doesn't exist. And so like you have to like create in the moment. Either create in the moment or know in the moment. And I really appreciate that about motorsports in some ways and hate it in others. Like there's these scenarios that run through my head after races, Mike, where I'm like, man, I wish I would have saw this piece of film right before that moment happened, and I could have like done this, and this. But it's part of the uniqueness of motorsports.
How much does it change week to week, year to year? I mean, you would think, to a fan that's watching that it would be pretty similar, but like you said, you only have a split second to make that decision, and the film can certainly be in the back of your head. I got to do this, and it can aid you in that. But you've done this for a long time, so you would think the split decisions would start to come second nature. So how much does it evolve?
Well, motorsports and this isn't just limited to NASCAR, motorsports is different from other forms of sports in the sense that you have a significant amount of science behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And the science is variable. So it's like it's a every week is its own science experiment. And combine that with the fact that chaos theory runs rampant in NASCAR, right? So chaos theory is this idea that one very minuscule variable can dramatically affect the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so, I say that in a science form, like, perfect example is Bristol this coming week. When we ran Bristol last year, there was a small difference in the tire on the car. And that small difference made the tires to where they could only run about 40 to 50 laps before they wore out and came apart. And it completely changed all the dynamics of the race.
Yeah.
Because the tires fell off, and instead of the pace being like, let's say, a 16-second lap, we were running laps that were like 18 seconds. All right, well, all the science on the car of how we're going to get around the track or even how I train was based off of running 16-second lap times. Now we're running 18-second lap times. Now the car is no longer in its optimization window, right? And now you got to drive it differently because it's not in its optimization window. Like, there goes all my film study. There goes all my simulator work. Gone. It's gone. Completely gone. This one small iteration on the tire just completely changed the entire game. And I can't think of any other sport outside maybe like a football game where it snows, where that's the case, right? Because sports are like, generally, traditional sports are in this really tight window, right, of climate control and very limited variables, like incredibly limited variables. And motorsports is not. And I think that makes it so unique. It makes the studying and the prep just so much more difficult. And the frustrating part of that is when you'll have a week where you're like, man, I really studied and prepared and da-da-da, and I've got a good feel for what it's going to take. And one of those small variables changes the entire thing. And you're like, I just wasted a week of my life. Like, I just wasted a week of studying and preparing. Not one piece of it mattered. What am I doing?
I'm glad you brought up Bristol a year ago. A memorable race on the 2024 schedule for sure. The tire issues, what was it like last year's race at Bristol?
It was kind of back to that conversation we were just having a minute ago where you don't have a chance to huddle up.
Yeah.
So you're like in real time trying to analyze it. And I can remember very vividly in the Bristol Spring 2024 race, I was about lap 50 or 60 where it just clicked. We were like, oh, the tires are screwed up. There's 450 laps to go. I have got to completely rethink what I'm doing. By the way, while I'm driving, right? Like, I'm in the middle of traffic. I remember this specific moment. I was on the bottom lane. I was exiting turns 3 and 4. My car was really sliding around. I looked down at the dash very briefly, like one of these, like quick eye movements, then back up. And I saw the lap time I was running and went, oh.
Oh, yeah.
Everything has just now changed. And I have got to immediately adapt to this condition, like right here, right now. And, it's a unique environment to run the rest of the race that way and try to be like, almost like that we were playing this game of chicken while you're driving the race car. We were like, if I drive it a little bit harder, okay, I'm going to be faster. I might be able to take the lead until it like all goes wrong and the tire falls apart, right? So then you're like, this is old Navy SEALs joke, right? Like the Navy SEALs, I don't know if you ever heard the story. Like when they do training, they like to drop them in like areas that are known to have sharks, and because usually sharks won't bother. Keyword usually. And it's like
it's
this
that
whole
one time.
It's this whole mental challenge of, all right, you can swim. You can swim really well, but can you swim really well with sharks? You know what I mean? And so, like, the SEALs have this running joke of, you don't have to be the fastest swimmer. You just can't be the slowest. So in that moment at Bristol, that's what I was saying. Like, man, I don't want to be like super slow and like save too much. So like, what if I just run like second or third? Then there's at least one or two people driving their car harder and faster than me. And when they break, I'll get a yellow, right? So you're like, this is like the mentality while you're driving. You're like, okay, I've got to adapt. Oh, that's a really slow lap. Oh, the tires are terrible. What am I going to do? And you're like navigating through traffic. Aha. And like this light bulb goes off in your head. Like, I really just need to run like second to third.
Yeah.
For like the next 400 laps.
Yeah.
And then when it gets to the end, like where there's 40 or 50 laps, like just go and we'll see what the hell happens. So that was my mentality. Does that make any sense?
It does. I just
makes a lot of sense.
Chris, I don't know about you, but I'm always amazed at what drivers deal with at Bristol. The lap times are short. They're always doing something. They're in a corner constantly. It's amazing how much they have to process in such a short period of time.
Yeah, well, Mike, how about Bristol? I mean, the first Bristol race to the second Bristol race last year. I mean, Brad, you talk about how everything's a science experiment.
Oh, we guessed that one way wrong.
Yeah, how different were those two versions of the Bristol race?
All right, so we had that spring race we've been talking about at Bristol. Tires wear out. You're like, oh, got to really drive the car carefully. Got to really take care of it. Got to be very strategic. And so the 17 car, Chris Buescher, my teammate, he went to Bristol to test maybe a month or two before the race. And Goodyear had a different tire, and like, we got this problem fixed. And they go to the test, and they're like, it looks just like the spring race. So, like, we're having our pre-race planning meetings. We're running our simulator stuff. We're like, all right, we're going to have to be prepared for 17, 18-second lap times. Go through all the simulator stuff and study tire wear. This one puts the least amount of load on the right front and, distributes the weight better. Doesn't have as much pace at the front side of the run, so it's not as good when you're running a 16-second lap time, but when you run like a 17-second lap time, it's way better, right? So you're doing all these things. We've got all these engineers. By the way, that wasn't me that did all that. I'm not smart enough to do that. But our engineers do all that. And then we go to the racetrack, again, after we've run this race in the spring, after we've run this test in the summer, and like we have these data points that are all showing us the same thing, and we get out there and practice, and the like 5 laps into practice, we're like, oh no, the tires aren't wearing. The pace is now going to be 16-second lap times. We are completely off with everything on this race car. And we ran that way. Like I think we legitimately ran like 25th the entire race. Like we're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed by this. But, that's just part of the sport.
It's a part of the sport. It is a crazy sport. It's not for the faint of heart, but man, it keeps you on your toes each and every week. I can imagine that. Chris Childers, Mike Massaro, with Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 6 car. He is the K in RFK, and we got more with Brad when we come back right here on Backstretch Banter with RFK. We're back here. It's Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. Chris Childers with Mike Massaro of RFK, and today it's been really fun hanging out with Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 6 car for RFK, and I believe the wrap this week is going to be pretty slick. He's got the Kroger Oscar Mayer wrap. He'll be driving around Bristol this week, which is the Oscar Mayer cars are always the coolest. Chris Buescher's got BuiltSubmarines.com, and then Ryan Preece has the Boost by Kroger number 60 car this weekend. It's funny, for whatever reason, I don't even think to do this, but I literally go to Kroger right before this show, like every Tuesday. It's weird. And I was just there a minute ago buying juice boxes for my kids. So Boost by Kroger has been fantastic.
Treetop.
Brad is with us.
Apple juice.
Apple juice, and she likes cranberry. So I got some.
Someone gave me a pallet of Treetop apple juice.
Oh, yeah.
And
Fantastic.
my kids love it. It's got these perfect kids packaging so they can take it to school.
When you have 3 children and a 4th on the way, that can come in handy.
Yeah, apple juice. We go through the apple juice.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I'm sure. You probably go through it quite a bit.
I'm not going to say how much of it I
Kroger's
drink.
the way. That's where you go. Go get it at Kroger and be a part of Boost, and you're going to get some good deals there on that apple juice. Well, we got Brad with us today, and I want to look ahead a little bit because I know you are passionate about this country. You are passionate about the people who have served this country, and you've got a really cool thing happening for the tribute to veterans, honoring a veteran. I think it's going to be the buildsubmarines.com Ford Mustang that you bring to the race that weekend. Give us an idea of what this weekend means, the program, and how much attention to detail do you put into making sure this program has a lot of value to those involved?
Yeah, well, the Tribute to Veterans car, we started doing that roughly 8 years ago. And, I didn't know the reaction, Chris, the first time we did. I didn't know what it was going to be, right? It was just like, hey, let's try it, see what we do. Mm-hmm. And when we put it together and ran it, we had some fun with it, and it was great to see the names and the people that went on it. What I did not anticipate was we made the diecast afterwards. Mm-hmm. And when we made the diecast afterwards, for probably the next 6 to 12 months, whenever that diecast became available, I did not anticipate how many race fans would buy the diecast, bring it to me, and have them sign it, and then be like, hey, this is my brother, this is my father, this is my uncle, grandfather, whatever, and some of it was my mom, or you know what I mean? Like, and how much that would mean to them. And so, initially we thought, it'd be a fun fundraiser and a way to recognize. Then after a little while, I was like, I don't even know if this is really a fundraiser. Like, it's just it became like a chance to recognize, different servicemen, servicewomen, and oftentimes not even by their own choosing. Like, so people would buy it. They're like, hey, it was my dad's birthday and I got it for him, or you know what I mean? Like, I thought it would be a cool gift, and then I got the diecast to go with it, and it's so cool. He's got his name on this race car. So it's been a real pleasure. I like to think of it as something more than a fundraiser, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like it's actually actionable, and people really love it. So I guess technically this is the 7th consecutive year that we've done it, and we're going to have it in the Build Subs car. We're going to have it at Darlington for the Southern 500. It's always special. Every time we do it, it means so much to me. It means so much to other people that that we're glad. And all the proceeds, we do have a small monetary fee. It's $100, which, for being on the side of the race car, I think is cheap, because I can tell you our sponsors pay a lot more than that. But
he's right. They do.
They do. They pay a little more than $100. But it's just a great way to recognize them, and it's forever, right? So it's pretty sweet.
It's money well spent. I come from a family who has quite a few veterans in it, and I've spoken with them about being part of that this year. And I've had so many family members asking me if they could include such and such and such and such. So when you say it's more than just a fundraiser, it absolutely is. It means so much to the people. $100 is money well spent for these folks, because they know that they're honoring a loved one, and
Dude,
you can't put a price on that.
Yeah, my one of my best friends in the world, Brent, passed away, who is a Marine, and he gave his life for this country. His mom and I stay pretty close, and as you guys are talking, I'm like, what a cool thing I could do for Brent and his mom, and buy the diecast and give it to her as a gift. It's really cool how things kind of start one way and kind of evolve into something else. And I'm sure you've touched a lot of lives that way. Yeah. And there's probably a lot of people that have opened up that diecast that the smile on their face when they saw it was probably unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
100%.
That's really cool.
Glad to be able to do it.
Hey, buildsubmarines.com. Your sponsors, I think, are some of the best. I mean, really, Build Submarines, I say it every week, as far as just a useful organization that, hey, if you're out there and you need a career and you're an engineer or something like in a related field, and you want to do something to help your country, and you want to work on these things that are really cool.
I know, super
much
cool.
Better than buildsubmarines.com. I mean, it really is fantastic. How for you to be on the ownership side, how important is it for you to work with Steve and whomever when it comes to not only getting good financial sponsors, but ones that really kind of bring value and kind of understand what RFK is all about?
Yeah, it's really hard to find the partners that we want to have. And when you get one that you love, you're like, embrace it.
Yes. Yes.
And
yes.
Build Subs is to me a really fun partnership on a multitude of levels. One, they're super engaged with the NASCAR program, so very cognizant of everything we do, what works, what doesn't work. They buy in-car cameras, and they activate at the racetrack. They just all encompassing is the way I would put it. But beyond that, I love their mission. There's two parts of their mission I really love. One, the idea that we have to significantly improve our naval, capabilities to maintain our superiority, which is this, the big stick, so to speak. I think as Teddy Roosevelt used to say, you carry the big stick and try not to ever have to swing it, right?
Yep.
And that's what we try to do with the United States. We try to make sure that we have the most advanced capabilities in the world, so that we don't have to fight, but actually the opposite, so that we can stay at home and enjoy our freedoms and get to do things like drive race cars, right? And watch race cars go around. And so I love that mission. I think it's very American. And then there's the other aspect of it I really love is the jobs portion of it. Most of the mission of Build Submarines, not all of it, but most of it, is about finding the workforce of tomorrow. And in some aspects, even today, with roughly 100,000 people needed to fill these positions in order to, close this gap that we have with respect to other countries that are building their navies rapidly. So we have to stay in front of those capabilities. We have to have the workforce to do that. The workforce doesn't just show up. These are a lot of cases skilled tradesmen and tradeswomen. It takes, sometimes years for them to learn their craft. And so it's an important mission that is getting the visibility that I think it needs to be successful, and we're proud to be a part of that. And I hear from people all the time now since we've had the partnership over the last 3 years of, hey, I just learned about Build Subs, and I went and got a job at the shipyard, and it's great. Now I got a great paying job, and I didn't know about it, and I get to work with my hands, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's super rewarding to know that you were part of their story.
We've got to get you to a submarine base. We have to get you on a submarine.
Yes.
So I have been on a submarine before.
Okay.
I went on the Asheville, USS Asheville.
Oh, wow.
It was actually a fun story. Nuclear submarine. I flew out to San Diego and got on the submarine. I went in the submarine. It was a celebrity tour. I went in the submarine with the guy who sings "You're Beautiful." Who's that guy?
Oh my goodness!
That's the only reason I
Name
know.
that tune with Brad
James Bay or
Keselowski.
something
Yes,
like that.
I don't.
What's the guy's
Something
name?
like that.
That's the only song of his I knew.
We're going to get our statisticians on that, and
Thomas is on it in the
Thomas
background. Look at
will-
this guy; I can see his fingers. But anyway, that was the only time. That's the only thing I really remember about that story. Besides the fact that we went down, what do you call it? Submerged, and we went down. I can't remember how far it was. And when you go down, like you hear the creaking and the cracking, you're like, all right, should I be nervous? But there's no windows. So there was a part of me that was like, did we even leave the base? like you could have been like, I don't know, you ever been in like a haunted house or one of those carnival rides where they like close the door and you're like, did anything even really happen? I don't know.
Yes.
That was kind of how I felt. I know things happened because like the room tilted and all those things, but I was like, they totally could have punked me.
So our producer Thomas suggests that the singer that you were there with was James Blunt. I don't know
That
if that's
sounds right.
true.
I
That
think
sounds
that's right.
I said James Bay. I was pretty close.
you're close.
I think
was
that's
close,
right.
but
I
James
had
Blunt.
I had no guess whatsoever.
So when I go on the submarine, by the way, and I think this is funny now. Maybe I thought it was funny then. But submarines are very interesting because they're so small. And the crew loves the kitchen. The kitchen is like the hot spot's the place to be. They got the ice cream machine. It's right next to the kitchen is like the only TV in this place, right? And so I'm going through this thing, and of course they had Talladega Nights playing.
of course.
In the submarine,
What
which
else
I thought
would
was
you-
really cool. The other interesting thing about this submarine is I got to go in the control room. I got to drive it. And
Nice.
then at one point they would drive it. Do you call it driving when you're underwater? I don't know what it's called.
Steer it?
Steer it, yes.
Operate it?
That was kind of cool. Only for like a second. Like it wasn't
Okay.
a long time, but it was enough to be like, yeah, I did it. But I went into the the electronics and surveillance room, And like they're just walking me through this submarine and da 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 da, and it's all upbeat and super chill, right? Super chill. And we open the door to the submarine, and we go in the room that's got all the screens and the monitors and all that stuff, and the sheer panic on their face when I walked in this room, and this guy literally stood up, and he's like, there's like a row of monitors, and he was like, boo, 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 like turning everything off as fast as he could. And to this day, I'm like, what did he not want me to see?
Yeah, what was it?
Yes,
Yeah,
what was
exactly.
it? Like, was this guy talking to aliens? Like, I don't know.
National
That's my
security, Brad.
Yes, national security. But
I guess.
like the
but who
look
knows?
on this guy's
I mean, it was a
out-
celebrity tour.
to this moment, like that, I will never forget that guy's face. And he just like, oh.
Yeah.
And it was a whole row of monitors.
Oh,
and he turned
man.
every one of them off. And so then we walked in the room, and it's just like all empty monitors. But anyway, that was my highlights
memory.
of my submarine
That's
tour.
fantastic. I love
USS
that.
Asheville. I had fun.
Build Submarines, an incredible partnership, and come Darlington, August 31st. Everybody can get involved with tribute to the veterans. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about what Brad has been up to off the track, including a visit to the nation's capital. We'll discuss it next on Backstretch Banter with RFK. We're back here on Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing, Chris Childers and Mike Massaro and Brad Keselowski. Our guest today, the driver of the number 6 car. He is the K in the RFK, co-owner of this incredible organization, and we are excited to go to Bristol this weekend. Coming up, though, I want to talk about something that's coming up in May. I know you were just in our nation's capital yesterday, meeting with congressmen and doing some important stuff, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But Heroes Homecoming is this incredible celebration. Tim Duggar's going to be a part of it, the comedian. It's May 22nd, benefiting the Checkered Flag Foundation. Brad, give us some information on the event and what it means to you.
Yeah, well, first off, we have a headlining comedian. Actually, 2 of them. I'm not allowed to say their names.
Is one you? Are you
No,
going to tell jokes?
No, please. No, I'm not that funny.
I'm disappointed.
I can try to be, but I can tell stories.
Okay, stories are good.
But no, it'd be great. The idea of Heroes Homecoming, let's just start there. The idea of Heroes Homecoming is to, effectively find key people who have gone out in the line of battle, whether that be serving our country domestically or abroad. So it could be first responders as well. And, they can come back the same way they went out, whether it's physical or mental injury, and making sure they receive, a recognition of sorts. And so Heroes Homecoming is meant to be just a fun night to honor select servicemen and servicewomen. And so we honor them with, kind of a party, a fun party. And we give them a service dog, which is actually really important in their kind of healing journey, whether that's helping them physically or mentally. And then we just enjoy like a fun night together. So we have, as you said, Tim Duggar is playing, which should be great. I love Tim. And then we have some headlining comedians, because I always believe the best medicine is laughter. And the comedians, I'm not allowed to say their name. It's a secret at this time.
Okay.
It's not a very good secret, but it's a secret. But when they come, you will not be disappointed.
Nice.
It's they are top comedians, so I'm excited
Nice.
about that. So the tickets are available for the general public, which I think is really cool. And all the funds that we raise for the night will go to the foundation and making sure that we can do more things for veterans, first responders that fit the criteria of the Checkered Flag Foundation. So honored to be a part of it, honored to get to do it. My wife loves planning it. Well, she says she loves planning it some days. So a lot of work goes into it. It's really a tremendous event, and it's one of those events that will make you laugh, will maybe make you cry a little bit. Like it's like a roller coaster of emotions, but you definitely won't regret going.
And that's coming up on May 22nd.
May 22nd, yep.
In
So
Charlotte,
check it out.
right?
I think, yeah, in Charlotte.
In Charlotte. They can get tickets on the website?
Yep, Checkered Flag Foundation website. You can look it up. We've got all the details and info, because I probably didn't cover it all. I'm bad about that sometimes.
But I think you covered the basic premise of it,
Yeah.
why it's important, and why you'll have such a great time if you go.
You will definitely have a great time if you go.
You've been a
It
busy
sounds
guy.
like an amazing event. Really does. It sounds awesome. Well, you were busy yesterday. I know
Yeah.
you just came off Darlington and Bristol's coming up, but you were all suited up with fellow NASCAR drivers and you met with members of Congress. What brought you and others to D.C. and what was the conversation that you had with lawmakers?
Well, I got to tell you my story first. So,
Please.
every year or two I get a call from Mike Helton. Mike Helton is the chairman of NASCAR. He was the president of NASCAR, but now he's the chairman. And he asked me to go to D.C. to do this event. And the event is for the Motorsports Caucus, which is basically a group in Congress that celebrates motorsports presence across the United States, but particularly in their districts and states, and kind of generates awareness to what motorsports is, the impact it has on the economy, and kind of the legislative issues that may or may not affect motorsports and how to, just operate more efficiently. And so the Motorsports Caucus has been around now for a couple decades. A gentleman by the name of Bill Posey started out of Florida, who was a racer himself. He ran late models. He's retired and long since go. Now our congressman here in North Carolina, Richard Hudson, is one of the chairs, and Mike, I think it's Thompson, out of Florida, is the co-chair. So the way these caucuses work, they have a red chair and a blue chair, which is a Democrat chair and a Republican chair, and they together they lead it. So I learned something every time, by the way, on that. So anyway, I go to fly to D.C. yesterday, and we go to get on the plane, and the plane's broke down. So that was interesting. They had to scramble a plane, and so I'm supposed to fly with Mike Helton, who's the chairman of NASCAR, Richard Petty, Raja Caruth, and Tony Bredinger, and there's not enough seats. So I'm waiting to see how's this going to go down. And Mike Helton says, "That's it. I'm not going. You guys go." So Mike Helton she's like, "Just go. We'll figure it out later." So they brought in another plane and we went. But I sat next to.
So Mike Helton got bumped.
Yeah,
They overbooked.
that'll be like the only time in my life that ever happens where I took precedent over, or preference, whatever that word is, over him. But preference. So anyway, we fly to D.C. and I am next to the king, Richard Petty, and he and I had I kid you not, a 3-hour conversation.
Nice.
Like the most I've ever talked to Richard Petty. It was so awesome. I was in my mind, I was checking the bucket list.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
I was, you know what I mean? Like in my mind, we talked about anything and everything, and that was super cool.
Yeah, talk about priceless moments. right?
100%.
Wow.
And not that I didn't talk to Raja and Tony. I definitely talked to him, but it was like I had this open forum to ask Richard Petty anything I wanted for 3 straight hours, and I took it. And I was so glad I did. You know what I mean?
And well, you should have.
That's awesome.
Yes,
You can't miss the moment.
That part was really cool. So then we go there. We meet with Congress, a lot of different members in different congressional districts. I met with the lady, I think her name was Anita, whose district is the Fontana Speedway. And she wanted to know when we're racing again in Fontana.
So do we.
And I told her, hopefully really soon, you can impact that.
Absolutely.
Because the Motorsports Caucus key initiative is to make it so that NASCAR can invest in racetracks, not just NASCAR, but any sanctioning body, can invest in racetracks and does not take money from the community, but also does not get taxed for their investment on the facilities, which is really important because if you're going to put $100 million into a facility, which is candidly more than that for some of these facilities, it's what they need to stay up with the times. You don't want to take that hit plus the taxes on top of that. So it allows them to actually make critical investments in infrastructure that allows motorsports to survive and thrive for hopefully decades to come.
That's really cool. That's awesome that you were part of that yesterday, and I hope that somebody from Tennessee was out there because we really need the Fairgrounds Speedway to
Perfect
get some
example
TLC.
of why the Motorsports
Yes.
Caucus exists. So I was glad to be a part of that.
Yep.
Very soon. I live within a mile of that place, and I love it. And it needs a coat of paint and then some. I'll tell you that. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish up with Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 6 Ford Mustang, next right here on Backstretch Banter with RFK on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. We're back here. It is Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. We got a few minutes left to go with Brad Keselowski. I'm Chris Childers. Mike Massaro alongside. We were just joking off the air that Brad's last win at Bristol was in 2020. And if you think about that year, there's probably a big event that comes to mind. And as we get ready for Bristol this weekend, Brad, take us inside that celebration as you won and looked up, and it's like, wait a second, this doesn't feel right.
It was such a weird race. I mean, that whole time, looking back at it now, like I really don't know how I'm going to explain it to my grandkids. I really don't. Like I still like I wonder that, and they're going to see a couple key pictures, and one of the pictures they're going to see is when I won there in 2020. And so the race itself was weird because I think I ran like third to fifth most of the race. And I ran good, don't get me wrong, but I didn't run great. And it was one of those races where, you know, sometimes you're on the other side of it, like Darlington this past week, where you're like running in the front and you feel really good about it, and your race just falls apart at the end. And you're like, ugh. And you're like, man, I deserved a way better finish than that. And then sometimes you have races like that year at Bristol where you run like third to fifth the whole race, and you're not like dominant by any means, but you're just there. And that's what happened. Like, we were just there, and my teammate Joe Logano and Chase Elliott, I was running third. They crashed each other. And I drove by them all with a couple laps to go and won the race. And so I'm like, yeah, this is great. It's good to get a win. You know, it feels good. You don't, you know, da, da, da. And then you're driving to Victory Lane, and you go up, you know, because Bristol has that building. You drive up that building. Now, normally that building, when you're driving up to Victory Lane, is like just full of people. And like, you can't even get up the ramp, and you're like, oh, am I going to run somebody over? You know, like this,
Yeah, you're concerned.
But at that time with COVID, there was nobody there. So literally, I drove up this ramp, and I'm like, at this point, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here, right? So you like drive up this ramp, you make this awkward left turn when you get to the top of the ramp, and you get there and you stop. You're like, okay, now what? And there's like one guy with a camera. You know what I mean? And you're like, all right, this is going to be on TV, so you still have to celebrate because there are a couple million people watching, even though you are completely all by yourself, right?
Oh, my God.
So you like get out of the car, like, woo, I won. And like, you look around, and you're like, yeah, I felt like a kid. You know, like when you were a kid and you would, like, you're playing football or baseball.
right?
Like,
You're pretending
you hit a home run,
touchdown,
you know what I mean? Or scored the game-winning touchdown. That's what that moment felt like. So I'm like, all right, did you get your shot? Because this is really embarrassing. I kind of want to stop because I'm a grown-ass man celebrating by myself on the top of this empty building, and there is not a single person here.
Unbelievable.
Not in the grandstand, not in the Victory Lane. You're like, yep, yeah, we got the shot. Okay, let's go home.
We all know that Prince song, and we're going to party like it's 1999. There needs to be a different song.
Yeah.
We can party like it's 2020.
Yeah,
Probably have a different vibe, I would think. Yeah. So
it was awkward.
But I can only imagine. I can only imagine just an echo chamber,
Mike,
right?
I got to finish this off. Then they send like one camera guy. I mean, literally one camera guy to take pictures. And like, they're like, oh, you got to put on a mask. I'm like, I am outside on the top of a building. Like, yeah, we can't have any photos without masks, or, you know, like the state will shut us down and we won't be able to go to the next state to race, right? Because it was all about optics, right?
Yeah.
If the state you're going to next sees something they don't like from the last race, they're going to be like, oh, can't come here. And I don't remember what was after the Bristol race.
Right.
I can't remember, but they're like, we can't take any chances. All your pictures have to have a mask. You're like, can we just take one picture without a mask? Nope. The health department in that state that we're going to next might see that, and they'll use that as a reason why we can't race. You have to wear a mask. So here I am in Victory Lane, like me, one camera dude. The camera dude's like 40 foot away. We're both wearing masks, all by ourselves. And you're like, woo! Hold on, everyone with the mask. You know,
The memories of 2020.
It was bizarre. Very bizarre.
Well, your work's cut out
world.
for you. We need photos in Victory Lane at Bristol that are more contemporary.
Yes,
we're going to work on that this
yeah.
weekend, right?
Let's get
do
those
that.
this weekend. That would be beautiful. To see the number 6 in Victory Lane. It has been a blast. It has been really fun. I wish we could go all day long. But Brad, thanks a lot for hanging out with us today on Backstretch Banter. Thank you.
Good to see you guys. Chris, Mike, thank you.
Absolute honor. Mike Massaro, always fun to work with him. I'm
My
Chris
pleasure.
Childers, and Thank you all for listening. It has been Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio.